Hello, and welcome to April May Creations, the channel dedicated to all things creative. My name is April Sittler, and I love to create. So whether you're here for a little inspiration, or you just want to see what I've been up to, thank you for joining me. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified when each new video arrives. I also feature many of my creations in my Etsy store, April May Creations US, for those of you who like to watch but prefer to pick out a finished product. I can't wait to show you what we're going to do today, so come on, let's get started. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on today's video. If you saw my previous video on home decor, I showed you how we decoupage this really lovely cross. So if you haven't seen that project, you might pop over and watch that video so that you can see how we did this cross. But today I wanted to take some time to show you how to decorate it. And this is the place where if there are any perceived imperfections in your work, where it'll give us a great chance to cover them up so you'll never know they're there. So what I wanted to decorate this project with are some paper flowers. And so if you watched my introductory videos, I talk a little bit about Heartfelt Creations. They're one of my favorite suppliers. They have a line of stamps, dies, paper products, as well as some other things, and then some shaping molds from the flowers. So they have a lot of accessories that really help you make some flowers that are going to amaze people because they look so real when you're done. So the flower that I chose to do today is called the Sun-Kissed Fleur collection. It has several different sizes of flowers, which is one of the reasons that I picked it, so that we could make some really large flowers, because this is a pretty substantial piece, and we'll have some smaller flowers to use as accents. I also wanted to do this in a fall theme because fall is coming up. So I'm going to be looking at like oranges and golds, some greens that are fall-like to do this project so that we can have a nice fall piece. I also thought it might be fun to do some other accents. So I got some raffia out of my collection. So we might add some raffia to this as well. And then I pulled out this little burlap looking ribbon that was in my collection in case we wanted to use it as well. And I just save every piece of ribbon I get. So on any kind of gift, any kind of shipment in the mail, you know, sometimes you'll get things like robes and towels and different things wrapped in different kinds of ribbon. And I always keep those because you never know when you might need a little piece. So here initially I wanted to just go over several things. So even if you're not interested in making flowers at all, I am going to share a lot of different tips and techniques along the way for some different stages of the project. So I think you're going to find some things that will be helpful to you. Now, when you're thinking of making flowers, there's several stages. So you have your stamp and your die, and if you don't have a collection like Heartfelt Creations with all the different sizes, don't worry about it. Look through your collection and see what flower you have. Because in this case, like I said, I liked this collection because we're going to be able to have different sizes. And you're going to take the different size flowers, you're going to stack them together, and you're going to make a flower with it. So it makes it a lot fuller when you stack them together and alternate the petals. But if you just have one stamp and one die, or one stamp that you're going to fussy cut out the flower around the outside, you can just take two of them, see, and you offset it, and then you have a nice flower. You can even add a third layer, offset it again. So even if you only have one size of flower, you can flower petal or flower, you can still make yourself a nice little flower. Okay? So I just wanted you to know that as an option. So we're going to take these and make a couple of different flowers this size to put on here because this is a pretty big project. And then whatever leaves you have, again, you can do the same thing with. Now, one of the leaf collections that I love and use almost all the time consistently is the Leafy Accents set from Heartfelt Creations. It comes with this viney leaf cluster. It comes with this larger leaf cluster, and then it comes with a double and a triple small leaf cluster. So you can use these leaves for absolutely everything. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about ink colors. So I made myself a little sheet. I took one of my cute little flower stamps and went through some of my inks, and I made myself a little color sheet of the stamp inks that I have on hand. And this helps me be able to lay different colors next to others so that I can find some shades that are going to blend together. So as I'm looking for greens to use, for example, I can see that those are more of a spring green with that yellow, and then these are more of a fall green with that yellow, right? So this has helped me. I did all my pinks and my purples so far, my greens and my browns and my yellows. So I've done a lot of the colors I've worked with, and I've just found this helpful to kind of pick out the colors that I want to use together. So you might find that helpful. Now, as we go to color the flowers, there's several different tools you can use. So this is a little dauber set. I got this one from Michael's, and it has a hole in the center, and then you're able to take it, and then you're able to put your color on this way. So I started using these, and I'm thinking that sometimes whatever tools you might have started with are the ones you kind of gravitate towards often. So I use these quite a bit. And then Heartfelt Creations has a set of daubers that I like that are unique in that they're triangle shaped. They fit together really neatly for you, but then they also have a hole you can put your finger in so that you can control where you want the ink to go. And the neat thing about the triangle ones is you can go right down the center of your leaf or your flower petal and put the ink exactly where you want it in a small space. And so I also tend to use those quite a bit. And then the other type that's becoming really popular right now are these blending brushes. You can even get these at the Dollar Tree. These are really nice to blend colors across when you really want a smooth, even color. I have not used these that much, so we might use them a little bit today so I can kind of see how they do. But those are some tools people enjoy. And then here's one that's been around for a while. It's a wooden little stamp handle, and then these little covers can be replaced. So you can have one of these for each different color that you have of your inks, and then you can keep them with your ink pad and then just change it out. So this is a nice little tool as well. Okay, so these are the daubers that I'm going to use today for this flower and leaf coloring. Okay, so I'm going to use the leaf green to do the color. And I have a glass mat here. Again, not a requirement. You can use just a paper plate. You can use just a piece of glass. I just didn't want to get it on my mat, so you can even use a piece of plain white paper. So again, you don't need any special tools to do this, just some sort of blender. You want your ink color, and then some kind of surface that you don't care if you get a little ink on. So the first place I start is I do a little dab, and if you need to test it on your paper, right, just to see how much ink you have on there. See, that's about how much ink I have so far. So I'm just going to start by going right around the edges first. So it's just a slow little motion where you just kind of touch the edge. So you want to hold on to the paper with this hand pretty firmly so that you don't bend it and it doesn't tear. But I'm just going to do, and your fingers will get all green in this process or colored, so just know that too. So you're just going to go around it like this, and I'm going to add a little dark color right around the edge. And as you can see on the ones I did here, that's how I got just that little bit darker edge. And I'm just kind of doing it right here at the side. So I'm not really going on the top, I'm just going right here on the side and kind of overlapping on the front just a hair. Okay. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to do a little bit more coloring in the center. So again, it's just a real light pressure, and I'm just going to brush out until I get just the right amount of color that I'm looking for. And it's okay if you want to leave a few white spaces, because those are a few highlights on the leaves, so don't feel like you have to color the whole thing in either. And if you wanted to try to put a little brown on your stems, you could. I just tend to just do it all in the same color because a lot of this gets covered up anyway. But again, however you want to do it will be perfect. So you decide, and then you can just do it the way you want to do it, because that's what makes your design unique. Okay. So this is a little less green than those, but that's okay. And actually it does look like it's even a little bit different color. So I wonder if I used a little bit of the fern green to color these last time. That's why you always make a note, by the way. That way you know. So let's do that. Let's do just a little bit darker on here, which will maybe keep it from being quite such a bright green. And if you're not sure how your colors will look together, you can always do them on a scrap piece of paper first. If you want to take a little bit more time and pick out your colors. But again, I find that in the end, the project comes out wonderfully anyway. Here, let me do a little bit darker. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to use, I'm going to do it the same way I did it before, just so that they'll look similar. So there we go. So there's our leaves. Okay, now with the flowers, I'll let you kind of help me pick out a couple of colors that you like, because I have not done that in advance. I'm going to keep these with the inks until I label them, so I can label the daubers. So there's our leaves, and those are colored. So now with the flowers, let's pick out a couple of inks that we like. So here is, this is called Tea Rose, and that's probably a little bit more pink than I would like for this. So I'm going to vote no on that one. Here's Orange Blossom. Now that's a really nice color that I think blends nice with this, so that's a definite possibility. Here's a Tangelo, a little bit brighter. Even that's nice. So this has a little bit more browns and reds in it, and that's a little bit more orangey. So you can look at those two. Here's a Potter's Clay. I borrowed all these colors from Miss Carolyn. She has a lot of the nice fall colors. That's really pretty. That has a little bit more reds and browns in it too. So maybe we'll do some tiny flowers in that one. I find that sometimes just a pop of a little darker color in the smaller flowers is really nice. And then there were a couple of yellows-ishes that I borrowed from her too. I don't know if yellow would be too blendy though. So I wonder if we could use peanut brittle maybe underneath one of these that we picked out, because this almost matches this exactly. We probably don't want it to be too matchy-matchy. Okay, so all of these colors really blend well with our green, so I don't think we have to worry about that part. So now we can just decide which ones we want to use for our flowers. So why don't we start with this potter's clay and do some of the smaller ones first? And I'm going to actually mark these so that I don't forget as we're going through this. So that was the peanut brittle. This was the potter's clay. This was the tangelo. And this was the orange blossom. Okay. So there we have those. So let's let's do some peanut brittle. Or no, we were going to do potter's clay maybe. And I might just go ahead and stick with these blender brushes. Let's see what they do. So the tiny, tiny flowers I think might be pretty in this darker color. And then I'm going to try to do the edges in a little bit darker color. So there's a pretty little flower. So let's do about 3 or 4 of these. So there's some darker small ones. And then let's do maybe the tangelo in the center of these. Now, because you're layering these together, really it's only the outside of this flower that you're going to see, and because it's going to be flat for the most part against that, you don't have to color the back, but if you wanted to do the tips of the flowers, that would be fine on the back. So sometimes you might want to color just in case they show a little bit. And you might want to wipe up any old colors from here, like the greens and the oranges, if you don't want to get them on your design. Okay, so let's do, so with these flowers, I like to do, see how the flower has these, has the striated design, you know, for some of the veins in the petals. So I like to kind of follow that. So let's color the tips really good. And again, don't critique yourself too much during the process, because I promise you they look great in the end, even though they're not perfect. Now, even though this is going to be kind of covered up, I want to kind of test how to do the centers here so that I will have it for the one in the center. So again, I'm just going to kind of do the center and just kind of come out and around so I get these little veins in the flower, and then I'm going to leave, for now, I'm going to leave that white. So let's go ahead and do all 4 of these that are going to make this flower. Okay, Now I find that on the smaller, the center one, I like to leave it just a little bit lighter because I can always darken it, but I don't want it to have too much color. And then I'm going to go ahead and do just a little bit in the center of these so that as it comes out from there, you could see some of this peeking out. So let's just do a little bit of that center. And then I'm going to try to get just the very tip in this one. And they have smaller of these brushes. This is the smallest one I have. But that way you can just get the very center. And to leave a little bit of white is not a bad thing. The other thing we're going to do in the flowers is we're going to create a center. So we're going to either add prills or we're going to add some stamens. So again, don't be so critical of yourself to do the centers because some of that's going to get covered up anyway. So let me just do the tips of these on the back. Okay, so this is going to be one of the flowers. Now, after I've added the Tangelo, I really like this potter's clay. So let's take a little bit, or I'm sorry, the peanut brittle. So let's take a little bit of the peanut brittle and let's put it just to kind of color in this area just a little bit. Just to make it still light, but maybe not quite so white. And again, I'm just doing a little bit at a time because you can always add more color, but you can't take it away. Okay. And see how that kind of blends in with that a little bit? Very nice. So again, you know, don't worry too much about this being really, what's the word? Very specific with the color where it looks like it, you know, I definitely took a dauber and daubed it on the edge. The fact that it's that defined, that's the word I was looking for, because again, you might not see that once you get it put together. So now we're going to take the flower, we're going to lay it together, and you can see how it comes together with a few of the little white spaces, right? And on the lower ones, you don't even see that you have some definition here. So with this one, because these couple are pretty defined, I think I do want to blend those out just a little bit. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of this color just to, again, not make it quite so defined. Okay. Okay. So doesn't that make a pretty little flower? Okay, and then let's try it on our design just to make sure that we like our color choices. I like that. So once we get the leaves behind here, I'm going to love these little lines that come out, right? How pretty that is. And then we'll have a couple of these maybe to kind of fill it out a little bit. I think I'm going to like that. So what do you think? It'll be nice and fall-like. And then by the time we get the raffia behind it as well, I think it's going to turn out really nice. Okay, so I like my flower. I'm going to continue to make the others in a similar colors, at least one more, and then we can decide if we want to mix in a little bit different color. So we might want to bring in some yellow. And I have the perfect flower to make a little yellow one to accent this. So I'll make a few more flowers and we'll come back and I'll show you how to make, how to start shaping and getting them all ready to go, all ready to glue down. Okay, now I'm a color girl, so one of the flowers that I love to hand shape is the peony with Heartfelt Creations. It's the sweetest little flower because it has so much definition in the petals, and once you crinkle them together, they just come out really, really precious. So as I was pulling out the yellow flowers, which would be a good accent, I had some that I already had colored, and I really like this purple with this. Doesn't that look lovely? So I was thinking that maybe instead of the yellow, or in addition to some yellow, I will also do some purple. And I think among those three colors, it's going to make a really, really pretty display. So with that said, why don't we just cheat and use the ones that are already done, because these are already shaped as well. And so we'll do a little yellow, and then I did have this pink too. So why don't we pull out a couple of pink and see what we want to do. So let's just do a few more of these little orange flowers, and then we'll have what we need. Okay, and I find as I'm working with this blender brush that I think this would be a really great tool if you do a lot of stenciling, because of the way that the ink goes in the brush and comes out of the brush. I like my daubers better, I think, for the flowers, because I just feel that I have more control over how much of the color is going to come out and where. But these are really nice for blending colors together, and I think they'd be great for stenciling. So that's just my opinion on those. Okay, so now let's put this next flower just a little bit together here. Let's bring our cross out. And let's just take a look at what we've got so far. So we've got this flower, we've got that one, and then we've got this one. It's going to be a little bit smaller, and this one, and then we've got these great little red ones, darker red. And then we have these, and you know what I think might be pretty? What if we put a little darker end on these? And that, I believe, was the orange blossom. No, potter's clay. That's why you make your list, because then you can remember where things were. So let's just do a little bit of potter's clay out here on these tips, just to really make them pop just a little bit darker color. And it'll give just a little bit more definition, see? So I like that. Makes just a little bit of variation again in the flowers so they don't all look the same. Okay. Okay. And then where we wanted to do a pop of color. So with these, we're kind of getting close to doing the flower shaping on these so that you can see how they'll look, because these won't be as flat. These are going to pop up so that they will stand out a little bit more. But that gives you an idea of how, one way that you could lay the flowers down that would make it nice. If you like, once you lay this down, if you like what you've designed to start with, take a picture of it with your camera so that you can remember how you had things placed. Sometimes I'll do that. Other times I'll find that it'll kind of just come together on its own, or as I get everything shaped, it even looks a little bit different. But what I was trying to do here is just make sure that we were going to have enough flowers, and I think that it's going to be perfect. So I think we might not even need all of these, but by the time we put a few more of these in here, you can see how it's going to really come together. So if you've made it this far through the video, you're doing great. I know this can seem a little daunting, especially when you see the finished product and say, oh my gosh, how did that come together? But as you'll see, each step leads to the next and leads to the next, and they come together, and so you'll be fine doing this yourself. So don't be scared away by it. Okay, so now it's time for some flower shaping or an end leaf shaping. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's several different ways that you can do the shaping. So you may or may not need some specific tools to do some of this, but if you do, some of them can be very basic and easy. So I want to go over a few options with you. So as I mentioned, Heartfelt Creations, with their stamps and dies, they sell these shaping molds that you can run through your die cut machine. So I have a Sizzix Big Kick, so that's an example of a machine you can use for that. Also like the Vagabond, for some reason I can't think of some of the other names, but you can just check online if you want these to make sure that they're compatible with the machine that you have, or if you need to get a machine, that you'll get the one that will work. Okay. So now one of the things that I got from Heartfelt early on was this flower shaping kit. And let me tell you, you might find this hard to believe, but when I first started seeing Heartfelt Creations projects and even went to a couple of their classes at some craft fairs, I was not interested in making flowers at all. However, I don't remember what happened, but as soon as I made my first flower, or maybe I watched a video where they'd made some flowers and it was just so pretty, that I was hooked. And so I really like this flower shaping kit. It was a great investment for me because it has all of these different sizes of tools. If I ever wanted to get into paper quilling or try paper quilling, it has the tip for that too. And so this just has everything that you need. It has your mat. It has the tool where it has interchangeable ends, so you can put any of these tools inside the end. It has a here's the quilling tool, and then it has a really large one as well. And then it has a piercing mat, so that as you will see, if we're going to do stamens in the center of our flowers, we're going to have to through. So this has been a really good investment for me, and I use it all the time. Exclusively on their site are these golf tools, and they are special shaping tools that have a groove. On a couple of them, the groove is on the ends. And so you're able, as you shape your flowers, to put grooves in the leaves or grooves in the flowers. And because they're metal, it really just makes such a smooth shape that I do really like these. I borrowed these from my friend Carolyn because she got them and tried them out. And these are on my wish list for sure. And these are great for flower shaping and for piercing. We'll use this other side to kind of turn down some of the edges of the petals. And so these are just really a nice tool if you want to invest in these. Okay, so let's do some shaping. So I'm going to do some shaping with the molds. Now the paper that I use for my flowers is 110-pound cardstock. It's extra heavyweight cardstock. I use the Paper Studio at Hobby Lobby a lot for mine, but you want to make sure it's the 110-pound extra heavyweight. They have heavyweight, but I use the extra heavyweight. Heartfelt Creations also has a selection of flower shaping papers that work wonderfully as well. Hobby Lobby is just close to me, so I just sometimes want to pop over there and get something really quick. So when you do the flower shaping, the reason you want the heavier weight cardstock is because you're going to wet the cardstock before you do the shaping. So that does two things. One, it helps to break down the fibers in the paper, and then it helps the flower or the leaf retain its shape. So you don't want to get it too wet, because then the paper will just tear and break. But you want just enough moisture so that when you do the shaping, that the flower or the leaf's going to retain the shape. So I will take the item and then I will spray it. Now generally I spray this at quite a distance, but I want to show you on camera. So I'm going to get these out of the way so I don't get them wet. But you want to hold it back pretty far, and you just want to do a quick 1-2 little spritz. So again, you don't want to see much wet on your hand at all. It's just a fine mist. And this is just a little water sprayer. It's a Recollections one you can get at Michael's. But again, you can get those about anywhere. I think even Tim Holtz has one. And then with these types of, this type of shaping mold, you can double up the layers if you want to. And with this shaping mold, these leaves turn out amazing. So if you don't ever have any other leaves, because not all of the flower combinations of stamps and dies will come with leaves, I would highly recommend getting these leaves, because these leaves go with everything. So you just line them up right on top of each other. I wouldn't do more than 2 layers is all I would do at the most. And you can just do them all at the same time. You turn them face down in this mold, and you can't forget how to do it, because the leaves won't fit the other way. So the mold is made to shape the leaves exactly as you need to. I'm not getting it pointed in that direction. Okay, so you can double them up if you have more than one, but don't do more than 2 layers. Otherwise, what happens is they stick together too much and then they can tear. And then you're just going to set the mold down on top of itself. Whoops. But don't turn it, keep it flat, or as you will see, they will slip out on you. So lay it down, press it down, keep it flat, and then to run it through your machine. So with my Big Kick machine, you aren't going to use the long plate, so you do not need that. You're just going to sandwich this in between the clear, and mine, I could hear they slipped, so I'm going to realign them up before I get started. But you want to just use your 2 clear plates to run this through. So then you're just going to run it through one time. And you're going to magically have some shaped leaves. Look at that. Aren't they wonderful? So look how easy that was. So the leaves come out amazing in these shaping molds. So I highly recommend that. And then I break them apart right away so that they can dry individually, so that they don't stick together. So we're going to give these just a moment to dry. Because you're not using much water, it won't take long. Okay? And then with the flowers, they have shaping molds that match a lot of the flowers. But there's also a general shaping mold called the Floral Basics that will do any type of flower. So I'm going to use the general shaping mold for some of these here because it did not come with a shaping mold. So we're going to do just like we did before, where we're going to spritz them. I usually spritz the back. And so these, if we want them to be, and you just fit them inside, one more thought here, you just fit them inside the quadrant that will hold the entire flower. And so these flowers, if you want them to cup up, you're going to put them face up in here. So you just find the quadrant that's going to be the closest match for your flower size. And you'll want to go bigger rather than smaller. And you'll want to pick the one that fits it the most, the closest as well. I'm going to try one of these on there just to see if it does a better job than on the tiny one. Okay? And then these, I'm going to show you how to hand shape, so we'll do those separate. Okay, so again, you just fit the mold down on top of itself, and then I'm going to run it through the machine. Okay, and here you have some wonderfully shaped flowers again. So see? So those shaping molds are really nice. So if you want to invest in those, they're a good investment. And then you will use, even if you use the shaping mold, I'm still going to use a little bit of this deluxe flower shaping kit to kind of spruce these guys up. So when I pick the ball, I picked a ball that's not too big for the flower, but not too small for the flower. So the smaller the ball, the more creased of an area it's going to make. So sometimes you might not want it to be that defined. So I'm just going to go around and finish helping this little guy just cup up into a little flower. Not do too much while it's still wet, because again, you don't want to do too much to the flower and end up having it crack or break. Not that it can't be fixed. So even if you have that happen on your items, don't fret. There's a fix for it. But this will just help them cup up so that as they dry, they'll just retain their little cupped shape. I just push at the base of the petals, just a little bit of pressure, and then once in the center. And I don't slide it around on these because they're already wet, so sliding might tear them, so I just push. This one, I'm going to use this one. And the more you do it, the more you practice, you'll know which end is which end. So again, don't get too stressed out by not knowing what to do. You know, just try something, and if it doesn't work, then try something else. Okay, so that's how we did those. And we'll let those dry. And then with these, I'm going to show you how to shape them by hand with this tool. So again, I'm just going to spray them with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to, cup them up. So I'm just going to shape it in here just a little bit. And then I am going to go ahead and give them a little bit of a crinkle around the edge. So I'm going to go just around the edge from the back side so they will cup down. And you see how it creates a little bit of just a crinkle right at the edge, just so it's not quite so smooth. And you'll know what pressure to use on it as you start doing it. You'll see which helps curl the paper up and which, might not have the effect that you want. And then we'll do this one. So just apply just the right amount of pressure. And this one you can slide around the edges. It'll make those little wrinkles and help make the flower look a little bit more 3D, because it'll cup it up. And you just let the paper go where it wants. You don't hold it or force it. Just let it go naturally. And then there's how you shape them individually by hand. Okay, so now I also wanted to show you how to shape flowers without any tools. Again, these happen to already be shaped because I ran them through the regular shaping mold earlier when I was making flowers, but just pretend like these are flat and plain and we haven't done anything to them. And I'll show you how we have this shaping method work. Now, with this shaping method, I like to have the backs colored because the backs will show. So I'm going to take these colors and I'm going to color the back real quick. So here are the colors I used on these. My favorite things, the color is Pure Plum. Again, you can get shades in whatever stamping colors you have will be perfectly fine to use. I just work with the ones I have, and that's how I have them. These are just the stamp inks I found, and so I've just learned to work with them. Now, if you have a list of stamp inks that you know you like, and you want to specifically buy those that go together, that's fine too. But also realize you can work with what you have, and you can just find colors that will coordinate with what you might already own. Also, you'll find that some stamp pads are large like this, some are smaller. I think you noticed earlier I had this smaller little archival ink from my fern green. It doesn't really matter what size of ink pads you get either. I mean, obviously the bigger ink pads are going to have more ink in them. But it's really just a matter of what you're stamping or what you're doing. The larger ink pads allow you to place a full stamp down on it a little easier, but there's a lot of times where I'll just take the stamp ink itself and go down on the item. So again, if you find a color you like, just get it. I wouldn't worry so much about the size unless you prefer the larger ones. And I'm also going to darken these yellow ones just a little bit more right around the edges so that they are just a little bit darker. And I apologize. I know I keep pulling these flowers closer to me to work, and sometimes I get off camera. So that's one reason why I wanted to do these individually, so that I would remember to keep my hands out here in the middle for you to see easier. So the yellow was the sunflower, and then this pink is the lilac posies. Okay, and then the other thing that I remembered as I was talking to you, when I was talking to you earlier, is with these flowers, I don't just use a single flower. I'm going to double them up. And so I'm actually going to have one pink flower, one yellow flower, and one purple flower. So hopefully that will be enough color, but if not, then you may see me in the end of the video have a few more than what we started with if I think we need to add pops of color elsewhere. Okay, so now with these peonies, to shape them by hand, you're still going to use the water. You're going to spray the back side once or twice, just a light spray, and then you're just going to crinkle them up. As you put them together, I guess I do tend to put the petals opposite each other rather than in a row. I'm not going to try to be neat and perfect about it because you want them to appear natural. And again, as you go through each stage of this process, the flowers are going to look crazy, right? You're going to be like, how in the world is that ever going to look right? But trust me, once you get to the end and you get everything added to the flowers with the glitter, with the frills or the stamens and everything, you'll be amazed at how they're going to turn out. So that they're not wet while we're trying to put them together, because again, we don't want them to rip. So we want them to dry a little bit here in between. So we'll do this with all of the petals you want, and you could even put 3 together if you wanted a little bit bigger flower. These are the Sweet Peony from Heartfelt Creations, and I believe they're the small ones. You could even do a small one inside a large one with the same process. I'm just going to use the 2 same sized ones, and you'll see once I finish them how much definition there is in the flower itself. But if you wanted these to be a little bit more of a statement instead of an accent, you could make bigger ones in the same manner. And a lot of flowers you'll find you'll want at least 2 layers and sometimes 3 to 5. So kind of an odd number seems to be a good, I'm just going to get the excess water off here. Seem to be a good number of petals that give you a nice full flower. So if you have 3 or 5, those seem to work really well. But you can also get away with 1 or 2. And as you remember, when we made those really small ones earlier, which you'll see here at the end, that was just a single flower. So, but that just gives you an idea of how many flowers to work with. But now we can go ahead and start putting these together. So I still use a mouse pad or some kind of soft pad when I do these. So we're going to get our different sizes together that we want to layer in. So there's the 3rd, there's the 4th, okay? Now, the glue that I use, now glue is one thing that I feel is a really important tool, and it does seem to matter which glue you have. So for most of my projects, I use the Art Glitter glue, and they have a dries clear and they have a dries white, so you can get either one. It's available at artglitter.com. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on scrapbook.com. There's a lot of places where you can find this glue, but I do feel it matters. So, and you want it, when you order the bottle of glue, you want to get the steel tip and the steel pen. And then I just decorated mine with a really cute flower, but it's just a stainless steel pen because the other pens will rust. So you want to make sure that it's stainless steel. And it's just a regular old like sewing pin, and it has the colored ball on the end. Okay, so now we're just going to put a dot of glue in the middle. And what that's supposed to do is keep your glue from drying in the tip so that it comes out all the time. But mine must have gotten pulled out just a little bit. Okay, so we'll try it again. We're just going to put a little dot of glue in there. And you don't want to get too much glue because this glue can, with the paper already being wet and already being broken down a bit, this glue can cause the paper to kind of start to come apart, kind of like the leaf did, and tear. So you're just going to offset the petals and then just press it down in the middle for just a couple seconds just to get it in there. And then this was the next one. Again, just a little bit of glue just to hold it together. Now, there's some people when they make flowers that they like to use hot glue. You're certainly welcome to use hot glue. For this process, though, I like this dry as clear glue. But however, when I show you in another video how to make succulents out of some of the same flower petals, I will use hot glue for that because I want them to pop up a little bit. So that's a technique that you don't want to miss. Okay, and then one more in the center. And you're just continuing just to offset the petals just a little bit. Get them lined up in the center and then push pretty hard, and then you can take them as well and take the flower and you can just pull it up. Okay, and again, we're not looking at perfection because every flower is a little bit different. Okay, so we're just going to let that dry and we're going to make our other flower. Same process. Now the only thing I can recommend when you're making these flowers is you want to make sure they're straight up on top of each other. See how this one is offset just a little bit? Again, doesn't matter because not all flowers are exactly the same, but you can see how I have a little bit more petals on this side than I do this side just because it slid over a little bit. So if you make sure that you get them built right on top, the centers right on top of each other, then there'll be just a little bit more in the center. But again, it adds little character to your flowers, I think. Okay, now we'll make the smaller ones. And it doesn't take much glue to have these stick together, so again, you don't have to get tons of the glue or it just will kind of disintegrate the center and make it too soft. Okay, so those flowers are made and we're going to let them dry. Now we're going to come back and look at our peonies. Now the other thing to keep in mind when you use this glue is you just want to make sure you always keep the pin in it as much as you can so that it doesn't dry out. Okay, now with the peonies, you're just going to slowly open them and you're not even going to open them all the way. I'm just going to open them until I can just get to the center. And we could leave them as a single petal, but I'm going to double a couple of these up. So because this one, see how it's kind of staying together, I'm just going to leave it and put that one inside this one. So I'm not even going to unravel that one as much. So let's just put a drop of glue here in the middle. Then we're going to take this one and we're going to stick it in the center and we're going to offset the petals. We're going to hold it in place for just a minute. And then look at that gorgeous little flower. Isn't that sweet? So these are some of my favorite ones to make. And I must have just pulled out three. I just pulled out three. So what we could do is have one kind of medium one and one tiny one of each one, and then we'll have one pink one. So again, this one is doing a good job at just staying as a cluster, so I'm probably going to leave it for the center, and then I'll use this one for the bottom. So you kind of just let the flowers kind of show you what they want to do and how they want to be shaped. And they'll come together wonderfully. So you're just going to stick that right down in there. And if you can get your little pick down in the middle, you can do that to hold it. Otherwise, holding it with your hands is just fine. Just hold it in place for just a few seconds. And look how beautiful that little flower is. So I just love making that one. Okay, and then one more. So this one looks like it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good middle or center one. Let's see how this one opens. Actually, I really like that one for the center. So we're going to take this one and have it open just a little bit more for us. And then we'll put this one in the... See which one of these is going to be better in the middle. Probably this one. Okay, so let's put a little drop of glue in the middle here. Stick this one in. Let it dry just a couple seconds. See if we can get it open to find the center. Or a center. And then we'll stick this little guy right in the middle. Hold these all three together just a little bit. And there's our pretty yellow flower. So we might need a few more of these petals if we want a little larger flower, but I think those are going to look great. Okay, so now that those are all glued together and everything is shaped, then the next step is to do frills in the center, and the final step is to do glitter. So now let's talk about flower centers. So this type of flower, it's going to be a cup shape, and so you're going to have a little center in the middle there where this is going to turn up. And so frills are really cute to put in the centers of flowers like this. Frills come in a variety of colors and types. I'm not exactly sure what the base material is, but it's probably some sort of a plastic. So now let's talk a little bit about flower centers before we get started here. So flower centers come in a variety of types. You can actually just take a marker and color the center, a dark color or a gold color if you want, like for a sunflower or a daisy. I like to add frills to the center of flowers that are going to cup up a little bit so that it gives them just a little bit of texture and some added color. So these frills I got from Heartfelt Creations. They come in a variety of colors. I got a couple of sets just so I could have lots of different colors to choose from. They do not look like that big of jars, granted, but you can only tell when you've used a few because you can actually jiggle them around in the jar. So they just last a long time and go a long way. In fact, I think I've had these sets a couple of years now, so they're not a bad investment for you to make if you like frills. The other thing I've used as centers of flowers are these little beads. So the tiny beads that you get in the jewelry beading area also work great for the center of flowers or to accent on your flowers. And then a lot of people, a lot of people do nail art these days. And so there's even some super tiny crystals and super tiny like diamond shapes that come for the nails. And so you can look through nail art in your searches and you'll also find some really similar to frills but in the nail art section. Then the other center you can use in flowers, when I show you how to hand shape a flower, I'm going to probably use the stamens. So stamens come in a variety of sizes and colors as well. These, again, I got from Heartfelt just because they specialize in flower making. They just really have a lot of great products to help you just really make some awesome flowers. So I got this set from them. It comes, they're kind of a medium size. So they work for medium to large flowers, and then they even have some that are a little bit smaller in this set, so I could use some on the smaller flowers. But they have different sizes, different colors, different textures. I liked these. They're called rock candy, so they're a little bit glittery when you use them. And again, just a different texture. Because when you're thinking of doing a project, especially a 3D project, the more different types of layers and materials and patterns you can have, the more outstanding it will be. And then stamens also come in this type. These were in the wedding area. So people use them for quinceañeras, for the flowers and the pretty headbands and dresses and things. So these will work well 2. They're only $2.99 for all of these, so they're a really good value. They come in a string with one on either side, so typically you would fold them over and then push this part through your flower. And then the added benefit to these is you can color them any color you want. So you don't have to, if you don't have a color that blends with the inks that you're using, then you can find a Sharpie marker or even your stamp ink, and you can color this to match. So you could even take the stamp ink. For example, I have Lilac Posy, so if you're using this purple, you can use the stamp ink to color these. So it really helps your project blend together in the same color family, and you don't have to worry about them not matching. So this is just a little tray that you can get. It's mostly for embossing, but I also use it for my stamens and my glitter because it just works really well for that. So what I typically do with my stamens is I'll put all my flowers inside, or I mean, yeah, my stamens are my prills. This is for prills. I'm going to put all my flowers inside that I want to do. Okay. And then what do you think? Which color do you like the best? I'd say do some of each, but I kind of like this one here. I think if those are going to be a solid color, this kind of gives it a little bit, again, of a different looking texture just because they're different colors. So I think we'll go with this multicolored one. So again, this glue is fabulous. I'm going to put just a little bit in the center. Now when you put this glue in the center, wherever the glue is where your prills are going to be. So you actually want to make the area full of glitter that you want to look, you want the look of the prills in. And you don't want it very thick. It just takes it longer to dry. So you want more than a thin layer. You want a dollop, a small dollop, so that these prills can sink down into it. But you don't need a really big, a big bunch either of glue. So then I'm just going to dump the prills in the center, try to get a variety of these colors that we like. And on the smaller ones, I'm going to try to get some of the smaller prills so that they will sit in that glue. So if we get too big of ones, they're not going to go down in that glue very well. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to get my tweezers, and then I'm just going to pick up the corner. I'm going to kind of shake them in there a little bit, and then I'm going to dump them over and just do a tap. Okay, and then you can use your tweezers if you want to push your prills into the glue just a little bit. You can rearrange them just a little bit. That's what they're going to look like. So I think with this one, now this glue dries clear, so but I'm going to add a little bit more glue, a little bit wider, because this flower is bigger. I think I'm going to want a bigger circle. And like I said, that glue's going to dry clear, so all the ones that were underneath there will pop up to the surface. Once it gets dry, just make sure we get the extra ones out. Okay, now we're just going to let these sit and dry, because as we go to put the glitter on, we don't want to put our finger right in our prills. I've done it many times. And then I always prill also the tiny ones too. Sometimes you don't have to, like you can just take even a solid marker, like a dark brown marker in this case, and you could just color the center in. But I like the look of the prills on such even a tiny little thing. And then this little prills will just go right back in your container. Like that. And see, you can't even tell I used any. So these are going to last you forever. Okay, so that's what the prills are going to look like. Now these I'm not going to prill because we'll sandwich them in underneath things. So you aren't going to see those as much. So we'll just let those dry. Okay, things have had time to dry. And so we're going to add some stamens to these. Now again, you could leave the flowers exactly like that and not do anything to them. But when I've done these flowers in the past, adding a couple of stamens to the center has really made them pop. So the thing to remember when you're creating is to have some varied textures, varied colors, varied lengths of different things. And when you think of this cross, the more layers that you can have that are going to kind of pop out from the cross, make it more 3D, I think the more interesting it's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and add some stamens to these just so that they will stick out just a little bit further from the flower and add just a little bit more dimension. I'm going to use my paper piercer just to pierce a hole. So just find the center of the flower as best you can, wherever these little stamens are going to pop out from. And then push straight down so that you are pushing all the way through. And then these wires are pretty thin, so they should fit through there without any issues. Find the hole. Just going to stick those down like that. And then in the end, I'm going to want them to stick out just a little bit, like that. Okay, so I'm not going to pull them. You could pull them all the way down in, but I'm going to leave them sticking up just a little bit. So I kind of get them set to where I kind of am going to want them. Then I'll push down just a little bit on the flower so I can add a drop of glue. Again, I use the same Clears, Dry Clears glue right at the base. Just a little drop so that when you pull these down into the flower, they will stay. And then we're going to let these dry just a little bit. Okay, so we'll do the same with the purple. Okay, now the next and final step to finish the flowers is if there's any other shaping that you want to do on the flowers, now's a good time to do it. That's where these golf tools come in really handy, but anything with a graduated size will work. So I'm just going to take a few of these petals and I'm going to put it here and I'm going to roll them back. And this is where you want to make sure your pearls are dry. So you can stick your finger in them. So I'm just going to roll these back just a little bit. And again, a lot of the shaping just comes with practice and just doing what you like. So you can certainly study the different types of flowers and get a feel for what they look like in nature. But at the same time, just making a flower look the way you want it to look can make it pretty amazing. Okay, so I just turned those back a little bit, and then make sure your pearls are going to dry well. But again, sometimes you can just recup your flower if it got too flat by just holding the center. Okay, everyone, we're ready to glitter. So we've got all of our flowers created. Hopefully you've been creating along with me. I'd love to see what you decided to do with this project and what you decided to put your flowers on. So make sure to share a copy of that on the Facebook page at April May Creations on Facebook or on the YouTube comments below. Okay, so I ended up with quite a few flowers, a few more than maybe what you saw me make on the video, just because to do the filming part, I had to do things a little bit in stages, and so I had to do a couple of takes, but we got there. Okay, so let me show you about the glitter. So now the flowers are gorgeous just the way they are, but the glitter just adds that little extra sparkle to it that really makes them come alive. So I'm just using some extra fine glitter. I like the iridescent kind. This one's called Diamond, and you can get it at Hobby Lobby. If you can find the polyester glitter, that's my absolute favorite, and this could be polyester, I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up with a little bit more detail, but this still really shimmers really, really pretty. And then I'm going to use my art glitter glue, the one that dries clear still. And then I put my glue on the items with a sponge. So here's just a little makeup sponge I've cut in half, and here's one of those kind of loofah waffle sponges that you can find maybe in the stenciling area in the arts and crafts. So you can decide which one you want. This puts a little thicker layer of glitter on the flowers, and this will make it a little bit more sporadic. So you can use whichever sponge you want. And then I also have an embossing tray that I'm going to use for the glitter to help capture it so I can put it back in the bottle. And then one other thing I do is a piece of paper or a paper plate, which helps, which is what I put my glue on so that I can dab the sponge in it if I need to. A lot of times I'll just put the glue on the sponge itself, but sometimes I might want a little pool to dab in, so you might also want to have a little paper plate handy. And then I also have a pair of tweezers just in case. Okay, so let's get started with the gluing. So it doesn't really matter which of the flowers you start with. I'm just going to put some glue here on the sponge like this. And then you're just going to take your flower and then just do dabs on the petals. So this glitter I really like, as I mentioned, it's nice fine glitter. The polyester glitter is really nice as well, and Heartfelt Creations also has some glitter that is very, very sparkly. It actually has a little pieces of glass in it, I think, too, so that it really sparkles. So you can use just any glitter that you have. And that is what the flower looks like with the glitter. Now I can see that I missed a couple petals. I'd like to put some on, so I'm just going to add a little bit more glue. And if you squeeze your sponge, you'll get a little bit more glue to pop up to the surface for you. So there's one of the glittered flowers. And see what a difference it makes? So it really just makes it kind of pop. So I like the glitter. Just makes it a little extra sparkly. And this glitter it's not very thick on there, so it doesn't tend to fall off everywhere. So you shouldn't have it all over your house. But I think it just adds a really nice sparkle. And once the glue dries and it's actually clear with just the glitter, you'll get an even greater effect. So now we're just going to go through and glitter everything, and then we'll be ready to decorate. Okay, we'll make sure we got all the little flowers out of there. Oh, that's right, this little one popped up here. He wanted to be with the leaves already. Now the other thing you can use if you don't have one of these trays for your glitter is a lot of people use a coffee filter. And there's sometimes I use a coffee filter as well. So that's another option if you don't want to buy one of these trays. Okay, so now for the leaves. So I probably won't do all of these leaves. I think we're just going to need a few of them. So I can just save some of these leaves for another time. And you can choose to glitter them now and have them all ready to go to just add to a card, or you could decide to just leave them unglittered to store them. So it really doesn't matter however you want to do it. I have some, I end up doing some both ways, so it just depends on how you want to store them. But look at that, isn't that pretty? Okay, so that's all the leaves or the glittering we'll do for now. I think we'll have enough. We can always come back and do some more. Although it is nice once you have your glitter out to get it all done at once. So that's why these trays are so helpful, because you can just tap the glitter back in. And for the glitter that sticks in here, just use a paintbrush. And if you find yourself with a little glitter hanging around, it just means you need to leave a little more sparkle wherever you go. So that's the process of making flowers. So you can use this for any type of flower. Like I said, go through your stamps and your dies and look at what you have on hand. And if you just have a single petal, you can go ahead and make 2 or 3 or 5 of them and just turn them, alternate the petals so you can stack them on top. I made these flowers so that I can decorate the cross that I made in a previous video, so make sure you check that out if you'd like to see how I made the cross. And make sure to check out the video following this so you can see the finished product and how the cross turned out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a great time. I hope you were inspired and learned how easy it is to make these beautiful paper flowers. It is a bit time consuming, I'll give you that, but the finished product in the end is worth all of the time spent. Happy creating and be inspired. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time today with April May Creations. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share it with people in your life who need a little creative inspiration to make something fun. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on April May Creations. I have a variety of videos for you to check out next, featuring handmade projects, secrets to stress-free crafting, easy organization, and so much more. If you are not the maker type, check out my Etsy store at April May Creations US, where I take custom orders and offer many of these finished products for sale.